Hello, one and all. It's me again, and today I'm going to be doing yet another Elliot Rodger video, and it's about his day of retribution and pretty much why he pretty much fucked up everything. Anyway, if you've watched this video, if you're watching this video, you've probably heard of Elliot Rodger by now and what he did. Before killing himself, of course. But what a lot of you don't know, and what you don't know, is that that wasn't what he had planned. He had a very elaborate plan for the day of retribution. And there have been a few videos that describe this, but I decided to throw mine in for good measure. Anyway, let's start off with the day before the day of retribution. He had, up until in the months leading up to the massacre, he had bought himself and over the while leading up to the massacre, he bought himself what would become his kit. His 3 handguns, 2 Sig Sauer P229-226s, and 1 Glock 34. And about over 400 rounds of ammunition for the said handguns. He also had a BMW coupe, which his parents bought for him, and he had 2 knives. See, let's start off with what he had planned and what actually happened. Okay, first, to start things off, he wanted to kill his stepmother Sumaya and his younger brother. He then would go back to his apartment, kill his 2 roommates to secure the whole apartment for himself, and convert it into a torture chamber, basically, where he would lure people in through what he described as some form of trickery. He would knock them out of the hammer and slit their throats. He also wanted to torture the good-looking people, assuming that they had the best sex lives. And from there, he was going to do that on the day before the day of retribution, which was on May 23rd or 24th, depending on what time zone you live in. And anyway, he only did one of the things I mentioned. He killed his 2 roommates and their friend, but they're with the knives, and they were stabbed dozens of times. One of them was stabbed, they were stabbed between 80 and 100 times, most of them, 90, a little over 90 apiece. He didn't lure anyone into the apartment. He probably didn't do so because he didn't have the social skills and had a lot of social anxiety. He didn't know how to talk to people, let alone convince them to come into his apartment. He wanted to, it appeared, evidence shows that he made some effort to conceal the bodies, and it was probably just a lot of blood, and he decided, you know what, cleaning this up is going to be too much work, and he didn't have the social skills to trick anyone into coming to his apartment. He was just too shy. And he didn't kill his stepmother Sumaya or his younger brother. He hated them both, by the way. So, and he didn't even steal his father's SUV, which we will discuss later. And what it comes down to is, so far he had several goals stated here. He only accomplished one: kill his 2 roommates, and I guess he would consider their little friend that they had over as a bonus or something, as bonus score or something. And anyway, the torture chamber was clearly a lot less dramatic than what he had fantasized about. So without further ado, we'll move on from here. when we get into what he had 3 phases, and this was phase 1. Phase 1 was clearly would probably be a disappointment from his standpoint, in his view. Anyway, the next thing he cooks up in his sick little mind is going to a sorority house, the Alpha Phi sorority house, and slaughtering every blonde-haired girl he sees inside there, because he had stalked the sorority house many times and other sororities. And in his opinion, those were the girls that he was obsessed with, the blonde-haired girls. And anyway, he walks up to he uploads his manifesto and his final YouTube video up to YouTube, and he probably understood that this would put him on a time limit, because the police would be called. He obviously knew that police would be called, but, well, the timer would really start when he put himself at a big risk for that, because he probably didn't think anyone would actually get to the end by the time he was of his manifesto, or see his YouTube video before he was done. And at the sorority house, and the sorority and shooting a bunch of girls at the sorority house would attract the undivided attention of the Santa Barbara Police Department. And anyway, he goes up to the door and starts knocking on it. He tries to get in and it's locked, and he knocks on it for about 2 minutes. And rather than trying to breach the door with, by shooting the lock or busting through a window or something like that, he simply walks away and gives up. And then he sees 3 sorority girls, not from the same sorority, and he shoots them. He kills 2 and wounds the 3rd. And then he just drives on to go about the 3rd phase of his plan. And what he does is he gets out on foot at some point and goes up to a store and fires into it, and he kills his last victim. All of the rest, spoiler alert, all of the other victims at this point survived. That being said, he then gets in his car and drives off very calmly. That's what eyewitness testimony accounted for. Anyway, after doing that, he drives around shooting at people and ramming people. He hits people with gunshots, and he also rams a few people. A total of 14 in all. 6 killed, 14 wounded. Anyway, he eventually gets into a brief gun battle with a sheriff's deputy, and neither one score a hit. He then speeds off, ramming some more people, and then eventually he gets into a gunfight with 4 deputies, and they unload on him, and he unloads on them. 1 bullet hits Elliot Rodger in the hip, but he keeps going, and despite now being wounded, he manages to backtracks the way he came and rams his last victim, a bicyclist. And once he does that, he rams into a big SUV, and then subsequently shoots himself in the head. Now, he probably it's obvious he intended to kill way more people than he did. And thank God he didn't, failed at pretty much everything he attempted, including this. But what he accomplished that day was, on a tactical level, or an operational standpoint, very limited. He had most of his immediate objectives were colossal failures. He wanted to have a bag of severed heads. He did not have that. At the end, after the sorority house massacre, he wanted to just throw this bag of severed heads out in front of a bunch of people that he'd gotten from his earlier killings in his apartment, and probably would have gotten from his from killing his younger brother and stepmother. He wanted to throw them out in front of a bunch of people, proclaiming to everyone how he had made them suffer and how he was God. And he put a lot of planning into this, and it all went awry. Well, most of it. He did accomplish some of it, but he failed at about 90% of his objectives that day were complete failures. There were no bag of severed heads. There was the torture chamber was secured, but it didn't get operational. He only killed like 6 people, and there was no massacre at the sorority house. There was no burning down of the sorority house, let alone a massacre there. And his stepmother and brother survived. In short, he made himself famous. Not famous, infamous is a better word. He shocked the world, and he got the notoriety he so desperately craved. The recognition, the notoriety he so desperately craved. As I said in my previous YouTube videos, he is now YouTube's most hated superstar. That's what I call him. I know he called himself the Supreme Gentleman, the true alpha male, and a god compared to you. But anyway, Elliot Rodger, he was involved with this thing called PUA hate, pickup artist hate. And these are a group of people that it's not like MGTOW or men going their own way or men's rights, which are just trying to get rights for men. These people hate women. And the men that a lot of them at least, not all of them, hate women and the men they like. And one person stated he might have well been the very first terrorist attack in the name of this cause, but let us all hope that he is the last. I hope he's the last. I sincerely do. But, anyway, it kind of got you thinking, what was Elliot Rodger really thinking in his last moments? Was he scared? Did he feel powerful? Was he thinking, oh my God, this is my last day on earth? Because he seemed really afraid to die in his manifesto. However, he drove off very casually, and one eyewitness said he smiled at them like this, before shooting them. And ultimately, we don't know what was going through his head because he blew his brains out. He blew the brains right out of his head. And in conclusion, this is the end of my video. Anyway, like, comment, share, subscribe, and if you can, leave a donation. It's for a good cause. See y'all later.